John McTernan joins us, former advisor to Tony Blair, now political strategist for the PR firm BCW. He's at the conference too. And in the studio with me is Michael Fabricant, who was the Conservative MP for Lichfield for, I think, 32 years, Michael, right?
That's right.
So do you think their honeymoon has imploded?
I don't even know that they ever had a honeymoon, if I'm frank with you. I mean, only 21% of the eligible voters actually voted for Labour in the last election. And there's a huge contrast between that and 1997, when Tony Blair got in. 2 months after Blair got in, 68% of the population approved of the government. And Tony Blair had a plus 65 approval rating.
Okay.
Now with Starmer, only 23% of the people approve of the government, and Starmer has a personal approving rating a few weeks ago of minus 16. Huge difference.
John McTernan, it is dramatic, that, isn't it? Blair was up 65 and Starmer's down 16, which is a 70-point difference.
We weren't in the middle of historical geopolitical crisis. We weren't at the end of historic rise in inflation. We weren't in a situation where we've had 14 years of lost growth. And I think there's a sombre mood in the conference because there's a sombre mood in the country. The country did the job it wants to do at the general election, which was to get completely shot to the Tories, and the Tories should be reflecting on why they were rejected so badly by the voters. And Labour's got to do it takes more than 10 weeks, which is what we had, to rebuild over a decade of low growth and low productivity. So I think in that sense, there was never really any expectation of a honeymoon. And it was Vicky said, we've seen Keir Starmer on the world stage, and we've seen a credible, serious leader with NATO allies, with European allies, with Joe Biden. So we've had a very serious and successful, I think, launch of the Labour's global Britain approach, Labour's engagement on the foreign stage. And I think there has, and Vicky's picked this up and she reflected, there has been probably slightly too much doom and gloom on the domestic stage. When the public are feeling a bit grumpy, the government should give them a bit of sunshine, a bit of uplift, a bit of optimism, a bit of hope for the future. And I think that's what I'm hoping is going to be there in Keir's speech today, which is, yes, things are tough, but we are going to make things better, and here are some concrete steps towards that.
What about that, Michael Fabricant?
Well, I certainly take they inherited a difficult situation, and that's the same in France and Germany and the United States too. But I think the problem is far more deep than that, and I think the problem is Keir Starmer lacks emotional intelligence. I mean, for example, when he talks about all the gifts that have been given, he says, well, I stuck to the rules. What he doesn't seem to understand is the feeling of people out there is that he should have used a little bit of common sense. It's one thing putting wallpaper on the wall with Derry Irving and indeed Boris Johnson, but at least the wallpaper is still there.
Blimey, yeah.
Yeah, but the wallpaper is still there.
Yeah, but
and you can't take it away with you, but a dress you can, and a pair of glasses you certainly
Sure,
do.
but Keir Starmer said, I love going to the football with my son. And I thought, actually, that was emotionally connecting, wasn't it, when he said that?
Well, that was a fair point, but did he need to go into a box? I mean, come on. I mean, the way he did it is just not appropriate. And people like John Major used to go to the cricket and so on and so forth. And Boris went to events, but they didn't have to be lauded all over the place and accepting tens of thousands of pounds in gifts in that way.
Maybe the situation here, John, is that they have not come out with enough forward motion, and they're getting then, all these bites on the ankles from the media about the freebies and whatnot. And as Vicky just said, everyone's thinking, hang on, where are our policies to announce at our conference?
I think I agreed with Vicky on that, and I think the way that you dominate the media agenda is by doing things. And look, opposition is iron in the soul. Every morning you get up and you think, what am I going to say? What can I say that can cut through? In government, you have to think, what am I going to do? And they should have been doing things. Once you announced the wind farm thing, the onshore wind farm, you should have had Ed Miliband and his ministers going around the country, going to sites where there will be development, going to factories will be part of the supply chain. One announcement can be 100 stories. And like I always say to politicians, you can either make £1 billion announcement or £1 billion £1 announcements. Mm-hmm. You have to have imagination to get these stories around. So So I felt, they were undoubtedly tired by the end of the election campaign. They pushed through with a 30-day plan that looked really good. There was lots of legislation in the King's Speech. The second 30 days in August, there were no stories, and nature abhors a vacuum, media abhor a vacuum, and it fills with other people's stories. And I felt that lack of a grid, that lack of forward energy, that lack of that lack of drip feeding the media. A bit of an announcement here, a bit of an announcement there, something on housing, something on council housing. So you can divide all these policies up and give everybody a little piece. And I think,
what about that, Michael?
Yeah, I think some of that is absolutely...
You do end up being told you're spinning everything if you take that clever
but
there's
another difference with the Blair thing. Blair came in with a plan. I mean, within days, Gordon Brown had announced the independence of the Bank of England, and there were other major projects that went through. Throughout the election campaign, we just heard about vote for change, and people wanted change, as all the commentators have said, partly as well because government had been in for 14 years and was getting tired. But here's the thing, whereas Blair came in with a plan and was able to do things, there hasn't been this at all. There's been no announcements of anything practical, just wish lists like, we're going to go for the people smugglers, or, we're going to stop benefit fraud.
They've done the winter fuel thing. They've then sorted out, they would say, the pay row among the doctors and the train drivers.
They paid off the trade unionists who are the paymasters of them. Yeah, sure, but they were inflation busting, and that's going to cause a problem in the years to come because other trade unions, and indeed the doctors themselves, are still saying we want more.